Alright, here is what we're going to make today. It is a small beaded flower with 5 petals using a picot stitch stacked on top of each other. So to start, put that one aside. To start, you want to string on, you start with about 18 inches of thread. I chose a dark smoke thread, and I tend to use Silamide, but your preference. We're going to string on 10 beads for the center of the flower, and I'm using size 11s seed beads, and much easier to do when you're not being filmed. So we have our 10 seed beads. You want to push them down towards the end, and you don't need to make a knot. We're going to make a loop that'll hold all these beads together. I don't particularly like making a knot to form a loop. It gets in the way when I'm stitching later on. So you're going to go through the tail end of all those beads, all the way through all 10 of them. Be sure to hold on to your tail and pull it through, and you'll have a loop. There's your loop. Next, you want to go through the next 3 beads to kind of secure that loop a little tighter, and that's where we're going to start our petals. Pull on both ends and you have a nice secure loop. There's going to be 5 petals, so a petal on every other bead on this base. So we start by stringing 3 beads. And I like to hold my flower in my right hand as I stitch, and I'm going to add the petals counterclockwise. String on 3 beads, and you're going to go through the opposite side of the bead that your thread just came out of, and the next 2. So a total of 3 beads. And pull it all the way through. And there's your first picot stitch. And we're ready to do the second one. We just string on 3 beads, and all the way through the next 3 beads on the base of 10. It goes rather quickly once you get to making quite a few of these. I've been making them in just a solid color. Can make them in multicolor. I've got a couple examples I'll show you as we finish this bead up. And 3 beads. Loop it, needle through so you form a loop. The tail I like to wrap over my finger and hold in my fist. It kind of keeps that flower from jumping around too much. One more petal. String on 3 beads and through the loop. And this final stitch, you just need to go through the last 2 beads, or the next 2 beads. So there you have 5 petals. And now we want to add another row of petals to make them a little bit longer and more like a flower. So you find where your thread has ended, and you want to go up through that first picot bead on your first row of petals. You're going to add 1 bead and go through the top bead, and then add 3 beads and do that same loop stitch like you did in the beginning. Loop and 1. So it's 1, 3, 1, and then back. You're going to take it through the last of that base picot stitch, and also through the center circle of 10. And now back up through the picot stitch. You can see these do go really quickly if you're doing just 1 layer, 1 bead through that top bead. it's pretty repetitive, so you can sit and watch your favorite TV or listen to some music. It's not too complicated. And one bead and back down through, so you're back at the base. So we've got 2 finished. You can see they're quite a bit longer than the others that are not finished. Gives it that floral feel.